sorry if it's hard to catch my vibe. I need a lover to trust, tell me you're on my side. Are you down for the ride? It's not easy for someone to catch my eye, but I've been waiting.
Hola guys, it's Taylor, and today I am actually going to be filming a story time for you guys. I know it seems like forever since I filmed a YouTube video. I honestly didn't think I was going to come back for a long time, and that ticking noise is gonna get annoying. I already know, I'm sorry. I just kind of wanted to like explain my disappearance for a little bit. Most of y'all that don't know me personally, like you know me through social media or YouTube in general, I'm mainly known as the car vlogger, to be honest. I just kind of need a break to kind of like find myself, and a lot's been going on currently in my personal life, so it's been really hard on me. The main reason why I've been gone is what recently happened to me, so that is what I will be talking about today. Before I get started with this story time, I just wanted to say that I believe that everything happens for a reason, and there is good people in this world and they just make stupid decisions, and so I don't want you to put down in any way, shape, or form the other person. I mean, I understand if you say that they made a bad decision. Just please, please, please be nice. So, let's jump right into the video. Okay, so as most of you know, I got in a car wreck, I think 2 weeks ago. Today will be a week and 4 or 5 days, a week and 5 days since I got in my car wreck. Like, I can't share anything that has nothing to do with me, such as like the driver in the car or any of that kind of detail. I can't really put in this video because I'm liable for me and what my point of view and what happened to me. I can't really tell you, what's happening to the driver or anything that'll be like followed with him from doing it. I can't tell you like the charges he'll have or if he'll even have any charges. Like, I can't really go into depth about the driver. I can only talk about me and my personal views and how everything went down. It happened 2 or 3 days after prom, basically. And the person that I got in the wreck with was actually just a friend of mine. He was like someone that I went to prom with. Like, I recently broke up with this guy I've been dating for almost, I think, like 6 months. And it was really hard on me. I was planning on not going at that point, and I randomly blew out both my tires on the right side, both of them. One day it was really rainy and really windy, and I blew out both my tires. This was like a week or so before prom. And this one guy, I need to make up like a name for him. I can't use his like actual name. I'm gonna call him Derek. So Derek randomly was behind me when this happened, and he pulled over and he was being nice. It was raining outside, and he gets out and he's like, "Oh my god, are you okay?" Just wanted to like make sure I was okay and like fine and all. And he helped me, he took me home that day, and that's kind of just when I met the dude. Like, I met Derek, if that makes sense. So he drives me home, and I call up a tow truck. They tow my car to the Ford dealership, and all of that happens. Basically, that happened. End of story. That's how I met the dude. I actually exchanged phone numbers with the dude. He said, if you ever need anything, if you need a ride to and from school or blah blah blah, give me a text, and we'll figure it out and all. I just felt out of like decency that I should text the dude and be like, hey, the car's just got out of the shop and blah blah blah, and explain kind of like what down. Like, I didn't want to leave him in like the dark, just like, oh, well, you gave me your phone number, but I'm not going to use it. Just thanks for dropping me home, I don't want to be really rude about it. So then we just kind of started like talking as like friends, like mutual friends, like talking about, just things that happened in our life and about our cars and blah, 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 blah. This is not really caring, but it leads up to the story. And later that week, he actually texted me and he said, hey, would you like to go to prom with me? I know that you don't have anyone to go with, and I don't have anyone to go with either. And I was like, yeah, cool. That sounds fun. Like, let's do it, So that was that. And I guess ever since that kind of happened, for some reason, he started parking right beside me. And just moral of the story, I don't want to go into too much depth about the whole nonsense and everything. Come to find out, he backed into my car earlier that week, and he didn't want to call the insurance to like get it fixed or whatever, because he's a guy and he drives a sports car, and it would make his insurance go up by like a lot. So we ended up leaving that. He paid me the X amount of money to get my car fixed. We took the car back to the Ford dealership Tuesday. Now remember, this is the day of the wreck. and all, so so weird, it's like all over the place. Sorry if I'm not like even like making sense, it's just kind of like I'm blurring it out. I haven't really like planned, you know, like how exactly I'm gonna say it. So Tuesday, early in the morning at 8 o'clock, I showed up at the Ford dealership, and I just dropped the main key off, like the key that starts my like Mustang. I just handed him the remote and I said, you know, this is my name and I'm dropping my car off, blah blah blah. He met me there at 8:10 I think, or like 8 o'clock-ish, and so I got in his car and we went to school. It was all fine, it was whatever. And then he was also my ride to and from work. That was our deal. He was going to pay the money. We weren't going to get the insurance involved at all. We didn't want the insurance to like know about him backing into my car or whatever. It was just going to be like hush hush, like here's your money, you know, here's the money and I'll take you wherever you need to go since you don't have a car. We're working back at Dairy Queen. Haha, sorry guys, you don't know a lot about my life anymore, but I stopped working at Colton's. I now work at Dairy Queen again, and I was working at Dairy Queen and I called him up and I was like, hey man, I need a ride, like can you give me a ride, or I need to get someone else to give me a ride? And he's like, yeah sure, I'll give you a ride. So then, you know, Derek shows up, I get in the car, and then we just start driving. And I guess we pull over in like this Harps parking lot, if anyone knows what it is. It's like a grocery store, kind of like, you know, Albertsons or Walmart, or it's kind of like a local food store basically. We pull over and he was like texting and just, you know, just like talking. This one topic came across and it was just like, what are we? Like, you know, like what are we coming of this? And I was like, you know, I didn't want to lead it on any longer, you know what I mean? I was just kind of like, I don't know, I hate breaking people's hearts, but I kind of just told the dude, I was like, I really just think that my life needs to go back to normal. Like, I thought things were just going to go back to the way they were when I had my car, you know, whenever I get my car back, I just saw things going back to normal, you know, like, I kind of like tried to explain things to them, you know, and I guess I really like upset them and I hurt their feelings. And, you know, he like got out and he was all angry, and so basically just made like this big ordeal, and he got out of the car for like, he left me in the car for around about 30 minutes to an hour, and we were literally only like a mile down from like my neighborhood. So I pull off my seatbelt, I'm just sitting there, I'm chilling on my phone, you know, just like texting people or like on Snapchat or whatever on Instagram. And then when he decides to come back like 30 minutes to an hour later, he gets back in the car and he's like, I guess I'll take you home. I was like, okay. I didn't think anything about my seatbelt at the time, so in the time of the wreck, I actually was not wearing a seatbelt because you didn't, you know, I didn't think we were, like, this was gonna happen. Like, most of the time you don't think that certain situations are gonna happen. Like, they just happen in a blink of an eye. So if I could go back and tell you anything from this story before I even say it, is always wear your seatbelt. I don't know how to say it. I can't stress it enough. You should always wear your seatbelt whether you're like a mile or not from your house. Like, it should always be like a major thing. And also watch who you like trust in a way, because if I was driving that night, it wouldn't have happened, you know? Like, you kind of have to like, I could have like avoided this situation is what I'm trying to say. I could have like called my mom up or something like that, and I don't know. But anyways, back to the story. Sorry. I'm like kind of sweating and it's all like, anyways, back on track too. So, moving on to the actual crash. He starts to pull out of the Harps parking lot. He's going maybe like 5-10 miles over. And it was fine, it was totally fine. Then we see like this state patrol on the other side of the road, and he blinked his lights at us and he turned his blue lights on. And he immediately knew, you know, he's gonna give me a ticket. So he starts going like obsessive speeding. We start going around 60, 70, 80 miles an hour over, straight on this bypass thing. I don't really think roads are really a big issue because no one really knows where I live if you're on the internet, but it's like this 4-lane highway, 2 going this way, 2 going that way, and we keep going, and then my neighborhood was like right in here, so he passes my neighborhood. At this point, I knew that Derek was not going to stop. Like, this was where I lived, and we just kept on going. Don't really know what it's called, like freeway maybe, partly freeway, not really a big intersection though, but it was definitely like a road that a lot of people around here use, and I was just like, oh my gosh, you know, I was like just keeping it to myself, like, okay, we're going to be okay, like, you know. I've been in the car with this dude before with him speeding, and I felt like totally safe, so at this point, I didn't really feel like we were going to wreck. I just felt like, you know, we were going to get caught either way. He starts trying to find like a back road, and he turns off all of his lights, including like the headlights, all the lights in the car inside and out off. The brake lights were still on because brake lights stay on like no matter what. I turned down some random road going at least 60-70 miles an hour. I think it was Cemetery Tucker Road or something. And we turned up in there, and I guess we tried to turn around, and the cop hadn't even came up toward us. If we would have like stopped and just like hid, we wouldn't have been found. Like the cop wasn't really aiming to like give us a ticket in a way. He was just kind of like letting us, you know, go. He was making sure we were like okay, I guess. He was just gonna give us like a warning or whatever is what the cop actually told me afterwards, like after it all went down and all. But we go up through the road, and we're going at least 80-90 miles an hour, and I see this, I just remember seeing in my like peripheral vision, like right in front of me, seeing like a sign, and it said like caution 45 miles per hour, and we're going like, you know, a lot over the speed limit. And so next thing you know it, he went to go turn and like correct himself on the way out. There's like this church, I don't know, it's like really hard to kind of like explain without y'all seeing it. So we turned up in here, and it has a shortcut and it comes right back out, and I guess he figured the cop was like in there somewhere and we were gonna go back out, and he misses the turn to come back out. The car is still going at least 80-90 miles an hour. We skid into the ditch. He loses control of the car, and the airbags like go off. Continue to go airborne out of the ditch and across the freeway. So there's 4 lanes of traffic. Thankfully there was no traffic like going either way when it happened, but the cop was still on the freeway, and he saw it all happen when we shot out, and it leaves like this oil trail, which I guess it kind of like stopped the car a little bit. And then we proceed and we keep going like at least, you know, 80 miles still, like just going airborne. And we slam into like this brick white building, and we thought it was a church, but it wasn't. The church is actually over here, and the ditch, you know, is right here when you come out, and then just across the freeway slanted into the white building. And most of the damage was mainly on my side. They didn't really have any damage over here, so there's a lot of people like going around saying that, you know, they think that they purposely tried to kill me, but I don't really have so much to say about that. That was the actual incident itself. I just remember being like, just slow down, and I remember saying like, just hide, you know, maybe just hide somewhere and like don't, you know what I mean? I wasn't trying to like push on the whole effect of like speeding or anything. And then when we actually hit the building, I remember like just like blacking out, like I couldn't like see anything. I could just see black vision, and I was just like, this like little noise in my head was like, and I remember being like woken up to the cops at the windows, because the windows and everything was like smashed and all, and the dash was all the way over legs, and the cop just comes up to the window and just like, you idiot, or he was like, you stupid, like I don't remember what he said, but he said something under the lines of that, like to the guy that was driving. And he said it just because, you know, that's like your first impression is like, oh my god, why did you do that, you know what I mean? Like it's just, why is kind of like what the cop was saying. And there was 3 cops that showed up. There was Baxter, Mountain Home, and somewhere else. I think it was having the dash like all the way over my legs. I couldn't feel my legs at all. Like they thought that I was never gonna be able to feel my legs again, quite honestly, because of the way that the impact hit me from like the car and the dash like folding over me. Basically what happened though is when we went into the ditch, it slung me out of the seat into the floorboard, and my legs, I'm trying to show this the best I can like possible, my legs were kind of like that angled up, you know, kind of like folded up kind of like that. It happened like so quickly, but the first thing they did was when we were waiting for help from the other cops, the ambulance, and later the air vac, we were sitting there, and the cop continues to ask the guy, are you okay? Can you get out of the car? And he goes, yes sir, I can stand up. And he stands out of the car, and he gets out, and he starts questioning him. And I just remember like he was just, you know, like traumatic. He was like, oh my god, are you okay? You know, he knew he like screwed up. You knew you done screwed up when that happens. And the cop actually got on his little walkie-talkie thing, and he's like, hey, I need someone at the scene of blah 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 blah, like asking for someone to come get him. And then he told Derek that he needed to get in the car when the car showed up, and he just, you know, he needed to leave, like he couldn't be here anymore. That happened. That was the end of them. They stood up. They were totally fine. I do know they had some injuries from the airbag, obviously, on their nose, and probably like something, not really fractured, but they probably like bruised or chest from where the seatbelt was. On my side, I just remember like hysterically, like I was like hysterically crying, like help me, like help me, like my hands were like going crazy. I was just like help me, like am I gonna be okay? And I just remember kind of like zoning out, like I so badly wanted to go to sleep, and if I would have went to sleep I never would have woken up again. Like that's what they told me. If I would have like went unconscious, there would have been no way to get me back awake. So when we hit, it threw me into the floorboard, and the seat from where I was sitting actually slid up into my back at an angle. So when it kind of like, it was here and it kind of like went up into my back, like near my spinal cord at the very bottom. And then my legs were obviously captured in. There was glass. I do have some, I mean, it's been like obviously a few weeks now, but there is some bruising all over me. I'll tell you what I got in a minute, but I was basically, I remember talking to the cops. I was like, am I gonna be okay? You know, like, is this it for me? Type is what I was asking. They're like, no, I need you to hang in there, Taylor. Because I had a name tag on, and they started asking me like where I lived and what my parents' phone number was and where I was coming from, and I said I was coming from work, and I was just like, just help me. And then this other police officer came up, and I was just like holding these two police officers' hands, and I guess they were just like keeping me awake at this point because I don't know if it's because where the airbag hit me, but my whole face was swollen, and there was obviously, you know, I had a black eye basically from it. I had contusions on, I couldn't feel my legs at all. I broke my tailbone, and I also part the right wing of my tailbone. Like your tailbone, like it has on your spinal cord, it looks like this, and they have like these little wings coming off of it, and like the side on the right, like just totally like, you know, broke off, and it was kind of scary. And I actually fractured the, I'm trying to think what it's called, the facial orbital on the right side of my face. It's obviously better. There's like nothing to see anymore because I have a lot of makeup on, obviously, but I'm honestly so lucky to be alive. Quite honestly, I didn't think I would ever be sitting here again. Sat there for about 30 minutes to an hour waiting on the firefighters, and they were just like talking to me constantly, like asking me to like, am I there, like to talk to them, tell them about something. They were just trying to keep me awake basically. Cops are like the nicest people in the world. I want to thank them to this day. Like I want to like personally go and thank them for it. But then the firefighters show up, and there's 3 of them, I think. There's one working the jaws of life, and there was one holding the sheet over me. He comes up to the window and he says, I need you to, you know, this is what we're fixing to do, and I need you to handle it a certain type of way, you know. So he picks up the sheet to like shield me from seeing like the jaws of life, and it's like, you know, kind of like right here. He's like holding it, and I guess he was joking, but they cut off the door, the whole entire door, and they couldn't get me out. That took around like 10-15 minutes. And then they started trying to bend the windshield away to see if that would help, and then that didn't help. And then they finally bent where the dashboard was from the car, and just kind of bent the whole like top of the car like away. It was honestly just very, very scary. And the firefighter was really funny though, because my legs, he goes, you might feel a little bit of pressure, it might be tense. And I was like, okay. And all of a sudden he's like, oh, and there goes your skin. He's like, no, it's fine. Like that's exactly how I said it. He goes, I think you lost some of your skin. Oh, yep, it's fine. And he was talking like that, and to this day I don't really know if it was my skin or if he was just like joking with me like as a joke, but it wasn't funny in the moment. I was like flipping out or whatever. And then after they get it folded back completely and they can actually see my body, they ask me if I can like stand up, and I'm like, no sir, like I can't feel my legs. So then they like continue to like pull me out, and then they put me into like an ambulance, and I thought everything was fine. Like I thought they were like hooking me up to like an IV. I had an IV on my right side of my arm, and then they were hooking me up to like the heart monitor, and I guess they figured I had like internal bleeding or something, because my face, I started discoloring, and then I just like knock out. Like I don't really remember what happened after that, and then I just remember being like woken up, and they're like, what's wrong, like tell us what's hurting. And I was like, I can't breathe. And they thought I had internal bleeding, so they started getting on their little monitor, and they're like, I need air vac ASAP on street so and so, blah blah blah, yada yada yada. And so then we were waiting for the airvac to show up, and I don't know if they were using like code words or something, but it was really funny. I was wearing a Dairy Queen uniform, my Dairy Queen pants, Dairy Queen shoes, my Dairy Queen shirt, and they start continuing to like cut it all off because they wanted, you know, when it all happens, they kind of need to like see what's hurt, where they can evaluate you and blah blah blah. So they continue to cut my pants off like all the way from the bottom up, like starting from like down here and cutting upwards, and then they cut my shirt. And the people in the background are talking about, oh, chili cheese dogs and ice cream cone seems really good right now, and I guess they were trying to like distract me, like as far as like it's like morphine or whatever, keep me away from like seeing all that. But I thought it was really funny that like the people in the back were kind of like distracting me while like the people were like trying to like help me or whatever. So I don't know how far I made it along in the story, but the camera actually died, so I'm just gonna continue as if, you know, it didn't die. So in the back of the ambulance, and I was strapped up to all the heart monitors and stuff, and they had me on a breathing machine like through my nose, not the actual mask. They had morphine going into my like IV because I was in a lot of pain, and they thought I wasn't going to feel my legs ever again, so I'm very very lucky in that aspect. But we waited around 10-15 minutes for the airvac to actually be flown to the ambulance. The ambulance was actually stuck also because they were trying to get up a hill and they couldn't do. We're stuck on a hill and blah blah blah. The person like drive. Anyway, so after we got out of there and I was put on this board. I was originally on like a stretcher thing, and they slid the board underneath of me, and then they had, it almost felt like duct tape, like they put duct tape across my forehead, but it wasn't. Apparently it was like Velcro or whatever. They Velcroed my forehead, my abdomen, my legs, and my feet all to this board. It hurt like HE double hockey stick, not gonna lie to you, but I guess it kind of worked because they didn't know what was broken, they didn't know what was fractured, you know, they were just trying to transport me to the hospital. One part that I didn't mention was the police officer that was holding my hand on, I don't know if it was on the right side or the left side, that guy and the firefighter that was holding the sheet that was talking to me the whole entire time, like walking me through everything while they were cutting me out. Them two were the ones that, like, before they put me on the airback, they were like, hey, my name is so-and-so. I was, like, kind of not conscious, like, I wasn't there, like, you know, I wasn't really thinking about their names. I was more so thinking about, oh my gosh, I'm hurt, I can't feel my legs, type attitude. I mean, anybody would, I would think. I mean, at least I'd hope you'd be worried about, like, you know, like, can I feel my legs ever again type attitude. But them two were like, hey, our names are so-and-so, we've been here the whole time, and this flight crew is going to take care of you, I promise. And I'm like, okay. And then they're like, I think one of them called me like Kayla or something. Anyways, I just thought I would mention that because these people were like taking care of me since I got in the accident to then. I finally get in the airback. I remember them carrying me. It was very loud and very windy, you know, like just being carried to the helicopter. Once I was in there, it almost reminded me of like Halo. I don't know if I was dreaming, but I believe it looked like people from like the video game Halo with like the masks on and everything. There was one in front of me, there was one beside me. And the one in front of me was just kind of sitting there and like watching over me the whole entire time. And at that point they had me hooked up to all like the monitors, and I was on a breathing machine, and also I felt that it was okay for me to fall asleep. So I guess I was airlifted to Springfield, Missouri, and we're in Arkansas, so that was at least 3 hours away from driving, so I'm not really sure. I think it was only like a 30-minute flight maybe, or maybe an hour and 30 minutes or something. I don't know, it was really fast. And I was flown to the hospital. The next thing, these people like dragging my body out of the airback. They took me off the board, and there was a whole bunch of people that greeted me there. Like the two flight people, obviously, they just let me out, and then they flew back to wherever they came from. Basically, I think that's how it went. I don't know. I just remember I was staring at the ceiling the whole entire time. I saw this person like in front of me in my peripheral vision, like, okay, hello. And then they put me on a stretcher again, and they take me off the board, and they strap me down to the stretcher instead, and then they carry me into the hospital, or they like roll me into the hospital or whatever. I just remember it hurt a lot, like on my back. I remember like constantly asking like, where am I, and like, you know, that type of question, because I really didn't know where I was, or that I was flight. I didn't know that I was flown to Missouri. I was just like, where am I? Where's my family? And they're like, we haven't gotten a hold of your family yet. Immediately when I got there, they started just like ripping everything off and like putting me on all of their monitors. And they didn't use the right one anymore, the right IV that I had in me. They taped it and they put one in my left side. So I had two IVs together, and they started putting like fluid. The pain of the IVs were nothing compared to the pain of my whole entire body, and I was just laying there, and they were putting me on more morphine, fluids. I don't know which one they did first, and I was just kind of like laying there underneath like this light thing, kind of like a surgery type table, and you know, they stripped me of my clothes and they put me in like a hospital gown thingy, and then they gave me a CT scan, a CAT scan, and something with iodine. Like they shot iodine in my body when I first got to the hospital, and it hurt a lot. Like it basically signified where all the like pain was in my body, and I had to like inhale and exhale. I just did a whole bunch of all these tests. Moral of the story, it was just like a very scary experience in a way, because I didn't know where I was, and these people are just like doing tests on me like crazy, and I don't know, like as far as my feet, they believe what actually saved my feet's life was actually the binders and books that I had down in the floorboard. I don't have those, they're downstairs, but they were basically all like smushed up, and the binders are all like bent in half and stuff, and my phone wasn't even a word in the world at the time. This is actually not the phone that was in the wreck with me. If so, I would be so thankful. This is a replacement one that I got from the insurance company because mine broke. I had no consent over that, and then my ID was also in the car, so I got that back. I'll insert some pictures, maybe. And also some pictures of when I first entered the hospital. I'll leave my Snapchat on the screen somewhere, but you won't be able to see them anymore because it only lasts for like 24 hours and then it disappears. Duh, dude. It's my phone. This is what I received back. Originally, they were going to leave it in the car. My phone was sitting in my lap. I was sitting crisscross applesauce when I was in the car when we first left the Harps parking lot. And then when we started speeding, I remember I put my feet down and my phone was in my lap. So I guess when we went into the ditch, the phone flew into the floorboard, or either flew into the windshield, not sure which. But it's pretty bad. I'm surprised my body doesn't look like this, because this is metal and it's bent a lot. This is what it looks like. Don't know if you can see it. That's the front of the phone. It did have a screen protector on it. I do not believe there's one on it anymore. And then, oh my gosh, I'm afraid of like, no. And there's the back. It's so weird. It doesn't even look like the same thing. And it doesn't work, obviously. It's crazy. This compared to this, imagine that could be my body right now. I'm so thankful. It's the same phone, but one is broken, one is not. So bad. That's about the only like thing I can really show from the crash, I can say. The only other proof of evidence, I guess you could say, is like obviously my wristbands. When I got admitted into the hospital, I have one for the hospital, one for the airback, and then one for when they put me in a room in the hospital in Springfield. And I was admitted into the hospital Tuesday night when I first got to the emergency room, and then I waited I think a day, and then they put me in the actual hospital, and I got out that Friday. Also, I feel like this video is kind of like all over the place, but I did want to say that I am very lucky that I didn't need any surgery whatsoever. The following Tuesday from the wreck, I actually went back to Missouri to a plastic surgeon, and I made an appointment, and I saw him. His name was Dr. Quinn, and he looked at the whole right side of my face, like a 3D image. He did say that there was a chip right near my nose, the fracture near my right eye socket, but that little like chip that came out, they said it would be more harm than good to actually like go in and do surgery, you know. So I'm very lucky in that aspect. As far as surgery on my back and all, when I was in the hospital, they actually did several x-rays periodically throughout the week that I was in the hospital. Like I stayed there, and I had like a guy do like physical therapy, and he taught me how to walk, like the type of walking I can do now, like 3-4 steps by myself, and then I'm kind of like out of breath and I need help. but I'm very lucky that I can even walk like all together. But as far as my back, tailbone isn't really needed for anything. Like, it's not like my body can't function because of it. It is broken, but surgery is not necessary, if that makes any sense. Like, they can't really do anything besides like attach a little piece of a bone back to it. And as far as the wing, it's fractured, and it's just one of the wings at the bottom, so it's not really needed. It's just going to cause a lot of like inflammation type stuff. So as far as surgery, no on the surgery. Back to the story. But really, there's not really a lot to say about the incident other than I was just in the wrong car at the wrong time. I was just like a standbyer in a way. I mean, I can understand that maybe I could have had some effect by making the guy angry or upset at the fact that I wanted my old life back when I got my car back. But there's not really much I can say about it. It was just like, everything happens for a reason. I shouldn't take anything in life for granted because I'm lucky to be living. Or when I first got into the incident, I honestly thought I was not going to live another day. The moment I was in the car and then I just blinked out and I heard like this noise, I just knew it was all over, you know? Like, I almost felt like I was going to go to heaven or something right then and there because I don't remember anything. Like, it's almost like that point in bracket, I guess God was watching after me. And I know not all of you are like religious and stuff, but I do believe that I had a lot of angels around me that night because I guess it wasn't my time to go. Well, maybe this story doesn't sound as critical as most stories, and you're probably like, well, Taylor, how are you sitting in front of a like sitting here right now like this if you were in a car crash like 2 weeks ago? Like, I honestly don't know. Cover that up. But it's probably better if I just like insert the pictures rather than like show them, but it was really bad. Any of these are gonna do any justice unless I actually put it on the screen. But it's very scary. I really honestly pray that none of y'all have to go through the same thing as me. Okay, leading me on to the reason why I kind of filmed this video is kind of like a personal experience type thing, like I said, where I can look back on it several years later and get to relive like kind of like those moments of me, you know, what it was like kind of like being able to express in my own words. To this day, I don't like riding in cars. I honestly don't. I prefer to be the driver in the car because anytime anyone makes a turn, I'm just like please don't. I still to this day, I don't lay all the way down for some reason. Like, it feels like I'm like being strangled or something. I don't know why that is a thing. I'm scared of laying all the way down. I have to like have at least like 2-3 pillows stacked on top of each other for me to actually lay down. My goal is actually to walk by graduation. I can't really walk. I can walk 3 to 4 steps by myself. And then I need help. Like, I need like a walker or like someone holding my hand just because my back gives out and there's swelling in my back, which makes it hard for me to walk. So I'm going to be in a wheelchair for I think a week, and then they're gonna, you know, like physical therapy and get me back to walking hopefully by May 18th. I really hope I can do it. That's like my goal right now, is being able to walk across the stage May 18th, and then I want to be able to drive after that, obviously, but I'm honestly just lucky. Very, very lucky. I apologize for not being on YouTube any sooner. It's just, I feel like it's not really my place. There's been a lot going on as far as personal life that you guys don't see behind the scenes. And yeah, I just felt like y'all kind of needed to know, since most of y'all follow me on Instagram and Snapchat and Twitter, and then all of y'all saw this stuff, and then I constantly get messages all the time like, what happened, are you okay, you know, make a video, blah blah blah. And so here I am, I'm making this video. I'm not really at the moment promising for like regular updates or regular videos. I'm not leaving YouTube is what I'm trying to say, but I'm not making regular updates. I know that's really hard to like comprehend, but right now I'm just going through a lot, and if I can just get through graduation, I'll be back on track, hopefully. I honestly don't know what I'm doing with my life right now. YouTube's just a hobby, but I really hope you guys understand, and I'm really sorry that I haven't been on here very a lot. It's just, it's been rough. Like I said, I'm so thankful to be living though, and I do not wish any hate upon the person driving in the comments box, like if it has to do with, you know, very mean, harsh things on the driver, running away from the cops. Please keep it out. I mean, I'm not trying to put them down in any way, shape, or form. This is just me kind of like expressing. I'm sitting on a pillow to make me tall enough. Anyways, that is all. thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the short future. And I'll talk to you later. Love you all.
It's hard to catch my vibe. I need a lover to trust, tell me you